Your goal is not in her.
Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Geek-A-Tech. First, before we start the video, I would like to thanks to all my subscribers and all my viewers for their support. So thank you very much. If you are new to my channel, please do like, share and subscribe my channel, and don't forget to press notification bell. So friends, today we are going to talk about integration testing. So it's a very interesting topic. People might confuse it with some other kinds of testing sometimes. So today we are going to discuss that what is integration testing, how to plan your integration tests. We will see what are the approaches or types of integration testing. Okay. So let's start with the integration testing first. So what integration testing means, as the name suggests, integrate. Okay, it means when we integrate things with each other, then we are going to test it. So is it as simple as that? Okay, don't confuse it with regression testing or functional testing. Sometimes people confuse it with the regression testing also, that okay, we are going to perform regression testings. It is not an integration testing. Sometimes they said no, this is the functional testing because we are testing functionality. But the thing is, whenever you are going to test an module individually, then it's called functional testing for that. But when you integrate couple of modules or more than 2 modules or 3 modules and then you test it, then it is called as integration testing. As simple as that. Okay, so let me describe you with a diagram. Okay, so it will be easy for you to understand. So first here, this is a module A. Okay, now this is a module B. Okay, now that's the module C. Okay, as you know that complete software is not developed by one person or by only couple of persons. Okay, it is always developed by many persons. There are many modules. Whenever you create an application, it has different modules, and you cannot create a module most of the time by after completing the first module. Okay, when the first module will complete, then we will move to the second module. No, for development of a feature, it is always doing in the parallel. Like in agile process right nowadays, they are taking things in chunks. They are for each and every features. What they are doing for a complete feature, they break it down in more smaller pieces, in smaller modules, to finish the product as soon as possible. So now the integration testing is more important and more critical, okay, to perform on your feature, on your product. So here you can see that we have 3 different modules, A, B and C. So suppose we have an application, we have a e-com application, and we want to develop a particular feature for that. So for that particular feature, like we have a home page. Okay, so it could have multiple modules, like a module which create the UI, which shows all the pop-ups and all the images. There could be a B module which pull the data from database and display the item categories, like in Amazon. Okay, and the third module, what it will do, it will record your activities, or it will try to give you some suggestions based on your complete activity on that particular page. So the approach for that particular home page is that, like, there will be a 2 or 3 persons or teams who will work on the UI part. Okay, they will try to bring the images, and they try to identify that okay, what should be the layer, what should do, okay, what should be the style, or what kind of images we should have. Then in the B module, where we are going to fetch the data from database, so there might be a case where this team is going to write some APIs which will interact with the database and pull the data based on our requirements. And now the C, what it will do, it will record or see all the activities on your pages and try to use some AI on that, and will give you suggestions in the future. So it will gather all the data behind the scenes. So what will happen when you are going to test it? So uh, when we are going to test the module A, okay, individually, so the first thing before you are going to perform any integration test, that each module should test individually first. Okay, the functional testing should always perform first on each and every module, then you are going to integrate your modules, and then you are going to perform integration test. So this is a very very important point to understand. Okay, you cannot directly create all the modules, then merge them, and then directly start integration testing. No, you have to test individual module first, you have to perform functional testing. Okay, so what will happen when you perform when you do a functional testing on each and individual module, you will identify defects early, and it will save your cost. Because what happens if you didn't test them and you directly integrate them, then there might be a case there are some defects which can easily identify when you were testing this module independently. Okay, there might be a case these two modules have no relation with that bug which is at the A module. That could be the case. So before going for an integration testing, do a functional testing. Okay, so now so the first criteria for performing the integration test, you should test all the modules individually first. You should perform functional testing, okay, individually on each module. Because what happens when you are going to perform the integration test, then you need to focus on different set of test data, on different set of testing approach, along with the existing test cases which you have which you performed in the functional level. Okay, so it's good to perform complete functional testing for each and every module separately. Then when you're going for integration test, and what you should do, you should focus on the test data which is mostly related to integrating all these three modules each other. Then first you need to understand that how these three modules are going to interact with each other. Based on that, you can create your test scenarios. Okay, you can create your test approaches, that okay, now when my A module connect with the B module, or my B module provides some output to the C module, then based on that I need to design my test cases. Based on that I will write my negative scenarios. Based on that I will write my my ad hoc testing scenarios. Okay, sometimes. So you need to understand first that how these modules are going to interact with each other before performing the integration test. Okay, so now let's see the first point. All functional testing should done before integrating the modules. Second, you should understand that how each and every module will interact with each other. Okay, in what manner they are going to interact. Based on that, you need to add more test cases in your test suite, and you need to design your test cases accordingly. One more thing, there are few test cases. Suppose for A module you have written down 10 test cases, for B module you have written down 20 test cases, and for C module you written down 10 test cases. So you have around 40 test cases right now before performing the integration testing. But when you perform the integration testing, it doesn't mean that you should cover all the 10 test cases which you covered for A. It doesn't mean you need to cover all the 20 test cases which you covered for module B. And it doesn't mean that you need to cover all the 10 cases for module C which you have already covered. No, you need to identify, you need to prioritize that okay, this functionality should be tested. Okay, because this functionality would have the impact over the complete flow of the product. It might provide some input to the module B, or based on that module B will generate an output which can be used by module C. So the important thing is you need to understand the flow, you need to prioritize your test cases, you need to identify the new test cases for integration testing. You need to categorize that okay, out of 10 test cases, there are 3 test cases which are not related to all the other modules, or which is not that much impacted. Okay, they have no impact when we integrate this module with the A module. Okay, so you need to understand this. You need to discuss with your PO, you need to discuss with your business analyst, you need to discuss it with your developers to understand what is the impact, okay, of one module on another. You need to understand that okay, if we integrate these 3 modules, then this piece of code will not have any kind of impact. Like suppose if I'm going to like we discussed, that it has all the images, it has all the database related stuffs, it has all the recording stuffs. So there might be a case when I integrate these three modules with each other, then my font, which is, or what we can say, that we have a text box which accepts username and password for my login page. So those text box validations, verifications will not be impacted by these two modules, because we have already tested it on the a module, and all the validations are on the UI part. Okay, it doesn't have the validations on the backend side. So you need to understand, there might be, you need to test the validation on the backend side also, but when you test these three modules, and you don't need to test the validations again for login text box, that it is accepting special character or it is accepting any other invalid values or not. So no, you need to understand that, okay, when we provide the login credentials, then it should give the on UI, it should generate or give the username correctly. So that's an important point to understand, that okay, when we integrate these three, so my login API will fire, and it will get the user details from the database, and it will display, okay, that okay, suppose ABC is my username, and my password is 1234, and when I logged in, then it will display my username is, it might be ABC or might any other name, it will display over there, okay, whatever we have in our database. So it should, so we should take care of all those stuffs. So this is how our integration testing will work. We need to communicate with each other, which each module we need to understand their flow, we need to understand how they works with each other, how they are going to interact with each other, what are the uh, impacted areas. The impact analysis is very very important when you perform an integration testing, okay, because what happened when you do the functional testing for each and each module separately, then you, at that point of time, you don't have that emphasis in your testing to understand the impact analysis. But when you integrate, when you are going to integrate all the modules, then you need to understand the impact analysis. So impact analysis is the most important thing when you perform the integration test, because based on that you will write your test case, you will write your scenarios, you are going to provide that kind of test data based on the impact analysis. Okay, so this is the few important points about the integration test. Now uh, let's talk about what are the types of integration testing. Okay, so there are, basically we can cover up it into two major categories, like incremental and non-incremental. Okay, so these two are the basic and very important categories to understand the integration testing. So we will talk about the with an example, we will talk about the incremental, and we will talk about the non-incremental one. Okay, so what incremental testing will do, it will test things incrementally. You are going to perform integration testing incrementally. Like suppose we have Amazon. Okay, so just give me a minute. So if we have the website called amazon.com, as we saw, so what it will do, first we are going to test login. Okay, let me rewrite it. So first we are going to test login, then we are going to verify. Just give me a minute. Okay, let me redraw it again. First we are going to test login, then we are going to test home page. Okay, what it should contain, how should images should display, whether it is giving the username correct at the top of the your website or bottom of your whatsoever it's the design. Okay, now okay, then we are going to test search criteria, how you are going to search the items. Okay, so one by one we are going to, we cannot directly we cannot directly perform an integration testing after login directly search. No, you should perform testing of the home page also, because home page will provide you different categories of your items, different sections of the items. Based on that, you are going to perform your search. So sometimes they have a dependency of on each other. Then we have add to cart, because once you perform a search operation, then you are going to test add to cart, because without performing search you cannot directly add an item to the cart. Because how you are going to add an item or a book or a mobile or any of the stuff which is providing by Amazon on your cart, once you search it, then you are able to add that particular item to the cart or add that particular item to your wish list. Okay, so this is the incremental. First you need to test login, then you need to test home page, then you need to test search, then you need to test add to cart. Okay, so this is how you are going to perform. First, login and home module will be integrated, then this two will be tested, then then now it will have the one module. Okay, now these two module are integrated. Now we have one module. So that module, now login plus home, now it will now we are going to merge the code for search. Now we will test this complete stuff. Afterwards, when the testing performs, the integration for these three features perform completely, then we are going to add this feature, add to cart. Okay, then we are performing integration testing, login, home, search and add to cart with each other. Then we are going to perform about payments. Okay, you cannot directly test login with payment, you cannot directly test search with payment. Okay, because when you search an item, then you need to add it into the cart, then you are going to payment about, you are going to perform the payment process for that particular buying option. Okay, so this is how the incremental process will work. It depends on the nature of your project or depends on your nature of your application. Mostly it is like the incremental approach. Okay, most of the cases, as you can see, that many e-com sites, they have a certain very common nature, like search item, add item, payment, then logout. Okay, so these are the most common approach in the e-com applications. Again, it's totally depend on the nature of your product, on the nature of your application, that how you are going to test it. So this is the incremental approach. Okay, incrementally you are going to integrate the code. You are not going to directly integrate all the modules and then you are going to test it. No, based on the requirement and the nature of the product, there are sometimes what happens, that we can directly merge all the modules, and then when we going to start performing the integration testing, there could be a case, we will discuss about it later, but this is the incremental approach based on the nature of your product. Like ecom, that first we are going to test login and home, then we are going to perform login, home and search, then we are going to perform login, home, search and add to cart, then we are going to perform login, home, search, add to cart and payment. So this is how we are going to perform the integration testing. For the functional side, we are going to functionally test login separately, we are going to perform test home separately, we are going to perform search separately, we are going to perform add to cart separately, we are going to perform payment separately. Okay, we can use stub drivers and all those stuffs when we are going to perform individual modules to test. So this is how we are going to test. This is the first approach, the incremental approach, most commonly used approach. Okay, now we are going to talk about, so again, in incremental type of integration testing, we have two approaches. One is top down and another one is bottom up. Okay, so let's talk about what is the bottom up and top down. So what the bottom up and top down means, that there might be a case when your individual module has a feature which is have a parent. Okay, parent feature, then they might have the child feature for that, then they have another child feature for that. Okay, then we have another child feature for that. Okay, like this, C1, C2, then C3. Okay, so what in this top down approach we do, first we are going to test this parent with C1. Okay, then once it completely worked fine, then we are going to merge the another child parent with C2. Okay, now with the parent and C1 it already has, then we are going to merge the C2, then we are going to merge C3. Okay, so this is the top down approach to test. The good thing about this approach is that while developing these, there might be a case when these two childs are in the development phase and this C1, the child one, is already done. Then meanwhile this C2 and C3 is developing, we can test the integration of parent with the child. Okay, so we don't have to wait for C2 and C3 to be complete. We can save our time and we can directly test it. So and there is another approach which is called bottom up. So what bottom up will do, that first we will test the child, okay, then we will test the C2, the another child, then we will merge it, these two, then we are going to merge the C1, then we are going to merge with the parent, we are going to merge all these childs with the parent, and this is how we are going to test. Again, this top bottom down and top the bottom up and top down approaches are depending on the nature of your product, on the nature of your development, on the nature of your application. You cannot always go for top down, you cannot always go for bottom up. Okay, you cannot always go for incremental, you cannot always go for non-incremental way. It all depend on the nature of your product. So before going to the integration testing, when you design your test cases for integration, you need to understand your all the modules, how they are going to merge, how they are going to integrate, how how they are going to communicate with each other. So you need to understand this all this stuffs and the requirement understanding phase. So it will be helpful for you to understand how you can efficiently and effectively create your test cases, you can perform your testing. Otherwise what will happen, there might be a case when you thought that okay, we can test it when all the code got merged or integrate, then we are going to test it. But first you need to understand that there might be a case when your application is going to merge or going to provide, or your developers are going to provide you single module. Okay, like first they have worked on parent, then they are working and meanwhile they worked with C1 also, now they are working on C2 and C3. Okay, so what you will do, you will not wait, you will not waste your time, you will test parent with C1. Okay, so you need to identify which approach will be good for my application, for my product. Okay, you cannot always okay, let's wait when they complete, then we are going to test everything. No, don't go for this. Okay, it will create a mess for you, because this because the large applications or the bigger applications, you cannot go for such approach. Okay, it will be a very a big disaster for you. So try to finish it in chunks. Okay, integrate it one by one. Okay, understand the nature of your product, understand the flow of the information in your product, understand how your server, your client will work. Based on that, after analyzing the all the impacted areas, design your test strategy based, like okay, I should perform top down, I should perform bottom up. Okay, so there is another approach which is called non-incremental. So what non-incremental do, that and you are going to test that your A module is done, your B module is done, now your C module is also done, and now we are going to integrate, and now we are going to test it. There will be a no top down or no bottom up approach for that. So it is useful when your application is small. Okay, when you have no proper bifurcation, that okay, this is the parent feature and it's these are the child features, and they have linear dependency with each other. So based on those criteria and the nature of your product, you can go for non-incremental, where your module A will interact with module B and module B interact with module C. Again, your module A will also interact with module C and B will also interact with module A. So it's again depend on the nature of the product. So based on that, you can go for non-incremental approach. But most of the cases, because application size, application the features that application provides, based on that we always go for incremental approach. So it will be good, you can identify bugs easily when you are going to perform an incremental approach. When you are going to perform the incremental approach, then you will identify defects quite early. and it is very easy for developers also to fix. Okay, but if you have all integration in the one place at the same time, and it starts breaking, then it will be very difficult for developer also to identify that what impacts what feature. Okay, so this is all about the integration testing which we talked today. So again, for a revise, first do the impact analysis, identify the nature of your product, identify the flow of your information of your product, identify uh, what module will complete at what time, what is their priority. First, perform all the functional testing for individual modules. Don't go for integration testing without performing a functional testing. Understand the flow of information. Based on that, create your test cases. Okay, create your scenarios. uh, go for mostly go for incremental approach to test your application. Okay, so yes, this is all about the integration testing. For more other kinds of testing, we will come up with the new videos soon. So thank you for today, for your listening. Thank you for your views. Thank you.